All right, Vice Chair Coulter, now that you've had the chance to get yourself settled in there, would you like to move your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move that House File 4362 be referred to the Committee on Public Safety, I believe is the motion.
Vice Chair Coulter moves that House File 4362 be re-referred to the Public Safety Committee. Vice Chair Coulter, please proceed in telling us about your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. So, members, I want you to think about someone who is starting their freshman year of college this fall. They were likely born 10 years after Columbine and shortly after Virginia Tech. They were probably in preschool for Sandy Hook and in 4th grade for Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. They were likely in high school for Michigan State. Someone starting their freshman year of college this fall has literally never known life where school shootings were not an everyday possibility. And the fact that I listed all of those names, and I'm guessing most of us knew exactly what I meant, shows just how pervasive this is. And it shows why the demands that we as leaders take action on preventing gun violence have become only more passionate and more frustrated. House File 4362 is a small step to answer those demands. So, members, under current law, private colleges, like all private property owners, are able to prohibit visitors, as well as students and employees, from carrying guns on school property. Our public colleges and universities cannot. House File 4362 gives the power to make those decisions about how to protect staff, faculty, administrators, and the nearly 400,000 students from gun violence to the schools themselves, to our 6 University of Minnesota schools and 33 Minnesota State colleges and universities. I want to be clear that granting this power is not a requirement to use it. And I think it's also important that we be honest that using this power is not a guarantee that we can prevent every shooting. But given the demands that we are hearing from Minnesotans, that, as I said, have only become more passionate and more frustrated with every single year, why shouldn't we try?
Thank you, Vice Chair Coulter. We will now proceed to testimony on House File 3462. Our first testifier for the day is Jenna Chernega, the IFO President and Winona State Sociology Faculty. And then on deck, we have Mark Grant. All right, Ms. Chernega, welcome back to the Higher Education Committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Chair Wolgamott, Chair Rarick, members of the committee, my name is Jenna Chernega, and I'm the president of the IFO. As you know, we represent the faculty, counselors, coaches, and librarians at the 7 Minnesota State universities. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I deeply appreciate Representative Coulter for bringing this bill. As you've heard, Minnesota campuses can currently not ban visitors from bringing guns onto campus. They can ban employees and they can ban students from bringing guns onto campus, but they cannot, under Minnesota law, ban visitors from carrying guns. We first brought this bill in 2023 at the urging of our faculty members. Following a work group on campus safety issues, this loophole in the law was identified as a key goal for our legislative work. While there's no single database that isolates college shootings specifically by non-affiliated status of the perpetrator, data from the Violence Project and Every Town for Gun Safety provides a clear picture of this subject over the last decade, from 2016 to 2026. Every Town for Gun Safety has tracked over 415 incidents of gunfire on college campuses since 2013. When looking at the motive and affiliation, 59% of shooters in identified cases were not associated with the college at the time of the shooting. In other words, they were visitors who would be considered to be allowed to carry guns onto our Minnesota State campuses. These incidents are not typically the large rampage-type shootings that make the news. They are most often related to individual disputes, robberies, or spillover from nearby neighborhoods. A longitudinal study by the Citizens Crime Commission of New York, which analyzed 190 incidents, substantiated Everytown's findings and showed that 59% of the 190 shooting incidents they looked at on college campuses were perpetrated by non-associated individuals or visitors. Some notable examples. In 2022, Bridgewater College experienced two campus safety officers who were shot and killed by a man who was not a student or employee. And in 2023, Michigan State University had a 43-year-old gunman with no known affiliation to the university who killed 3 students and wounded 5 others. When our faculty members are walking around campus and see that someone has a gun, they can report that person if they can recognize them as a student or an employee, if the institution has adopted a policy banning those groups from carrying guns. But if a faculty member, student, or other staff person sees someone on campus that they don't recognize, someone who seems to not be from campus, and then there is no official action that the university can take, and those visitors with guns may go often unreported. Our campuses serve the most marginalized students in Minnesota. MnState educates more first-generation Pell-eligible students and students of color than the private universities or the University of Minnesota. Indeed, we have more students of color than the University of Minnesota has students. And all of those students, like every student in Minnesota, deserves to attend college in a setting that is as safe as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next testifier is Mark Grant, Governmental Relations with the Minnesota State College faculty. Mr. Grant, welcome back to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Of course, Chair Walgabat, Chair Rarick, and committee members, thank you so much for the opportunity to testify in support of House File 4362. For the record, my name is Mark Grant. I am both a faculty member at Dakota County Technical College, and I'm here on behalf of Minnesota State College faculty. We're the union that represents nearly 4,000 faculty at Minnesota's 26 colleges across the state. As I have mentioned in previous testimony, providing a single faculty perspective on issues like this can prove challenging, as that perspective can often be as varied as the communities we serve on our 47 campuses on nearly every corner of the state. However, it is also true that all of our legislative priorities come from our faculty board, a board that includes those varied perspectives, and those faculty were clear. Faculty should have the right to address and possibly amend a policy that directly relates to the environment in which they work, teach, and serve students. It's worth noting that when our board introduced this topic, they were unaware that the IFO had brought this exact language forward in 2023. That means independent of each other, Minnesota's higher ed faculty came up with the same idea. That's exactly what this bill does. It provides the option for a campus to extend its current policy, which covers faculty and staff and students, to the public if they see fit. As our board discussed all the various scenarios a topic like this invites, it became clear that some campuses would pursue a change if available to them, and others probably would not. But all should have the ability. As a law-abiding concealed carry holder myself, and I'm also an exemplary Minnesota State employee, I trust our campuses' ability to determine how to best serve their employees and their students. I also respect their ability to implement policies that reflect the uniqueness and the needs of the communities that they work, learn, and thrive. And for that reason, Minnesota State College faculty supports this common sense legislation. Give our campuses the ability to consult with staff, students, and faculty and create the environment that best serves the community and their mission. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will proceed with other testifiers, but please stay around for when members have questions. Thank you. Our next testifier for today is Brian Ghosh, the NRA Minnesota State Director.
Bless you.
Mr. Ghosh, welcome to the Higher Education Committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First time at this committee. My name is Brian Gosh. I'm a lawyer, registered lobbyist with the National Rifle Association, here today to testify against House File 4362. This bill purports to set up a gun-free zone on campuses in Minnesota. And there are many examples in our history and in recent history where gun-free zones don't work. Putting up a sign or having a rule restricting firearms keeps the law-abiding citizen disarmed, but it doesn't disarm the bad guys. The bad guys still come on and inflict maximum damage in what they consider to be a gun-free zone. You heard reference to a Virginia Tech shooting in 2007. That started in the dormitory. The bad guy killed 2 students. He then went to a classroom building, chained the door shut, and proceeded to kill 30 more people. 17 were wounded, 6 additional wounded jumping out of windows trying to get away from the bad guy. More recent examples, Loyola, Chicago University, South Carolina State University, Old Dominion, all these happened in the last month. Those are all campuses that declare themselves as gun-free zones. They have rules prohibiting guns on campus. The state doesn't allow carrying of firearms by students or visitors. Minnesota does. There are no reported incidences or problems in Minnesota with the rule currently as it is. And I would suggest that Minnesota's rule is closer to what other states are doing, or at least a growing trend in the United States. So currently, there are 11 states that specifically allow students to carry firearms on campus. 2 recent examples of that would be South Dakota and Wyoming. They have not had any problems since those laws became in effect. There's a 12th state, New Hampshire, that's poised to enact a college campus carry law. It would be the most liberal version of it. It's going to allow 18 to 20-year-olds to carry as well, and constitutional carry. It'd be the first state allowing constitutional carry for carrying on campus. There are other states that are permissive. They allow the state or the university to decide if students and others can carry on campus. Since this bill tends to go the opposite direction of what's trending now in America and for other reasons, I would suggest not supporting House File 4362. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Our next testifier for House File 4362 is Anna Leamy, the Director of Government Relations and Advocacy for the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. Ms. Leamy, if you'd please make your way to the testifier table. All right, welcome to the House Higher Education Committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Anna Leamy, Director of Government Relations for the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. House File 4362 expands firearm restrictions across large areas of public property by treating university-controlled land as a broad exclusion zone for the exercise of Second Amendment rights. This restriction falls on law-abiding permit holders. Minnesota permit-to-carry holders have already been vetted by the state and entrusted to carry for lawful self-defense. House File 4362 does not target criminals. It disarms the people who comply with the law while doing nothing to deter those who do not. Individuals who are intent on committing crimes do not consult maps of restricted zones before acting. Students, employees, and visitors move through these spaces at all hours, often in areas that are open, unmonitored, and not secured. Denying lawful self-defense in these environments does not enhance safety. It creates vulnerability. Universities are not uniquely sensitive locations where constitutional rights can be broadly restricted. Public universities in Minnesota occupy enormous geographic footprints that include sidewalks, public roads, green space, parking areas, and other open access property used daily by thousands of Minnesotans who are not students, faculty, or staff. These are not controlled environments like courthouses or secure government buildings. Expanding the definition of sensitive places to include entire campuses risks turning vast portions of public land into rights-free zones. House File 4362 also creates due process problems by applying criminal penalties in areas where the boundaries are not clearly defined or readily understood by the public. University property often blends seamlessly into surrounding city streets, sidewalks, and adjacent private property. A lawful permit to carry holder could unknowingly cross onto university-controlled land and face criminal liability without any clear notice. House File 4362 expands firearm restrictions across vast, undefined areas of public land, relies on an unsupported expansion of sensitive places, and imposes criminal penalties on law-abiding Minnesotans who have already been vetted and trained. For these reasons, I respectfully urge you to vote no on House File 4362.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any members of the public who wish to offer testimony on House File 4362? All right, seeing none, we will now move on to member discussion for House File 4362. Are there any members who would wish to be recognized? I recognize Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Chair Wolgamott. Representative Coulter, what's the higher ed budget for this biennium? Rough guess. I would suspect the chair might have that answer.
Vice Chair Coulter.
I would not want to tell tales out of school, so I think I would defer to Mr. Savory on that answer.
Mr. Savory.
Chair and members, the general fund and healthcare access fund total budget for the previous higher education omnibus appropriations bill was roughly $4 billion.
Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Chair Wolgamott. $4 billion, that's the number. I apologize, I would have got that, but my phone was locked up. I had to reboot before I had time to get the question answered. So, Representative Coulter, it's $4 billion. You ask, why do private colleges have this and state colleges don't? In my mind, it's because the state of Minnesota, the taxpayers of Minnesota are paying $4 billion to these state college systems. I don't own a part of St. Benny's, I don't own a part of St. Thomas, but part of my wife and I's tax bill every year goes to pay for our higher ed system. Going to the questions, how's a visitor supposed to know if they're on campus, if it's a prohibited area? Would you have some areas that are prohibited? I can see like going into a sporting venue, but some aren't. How are you going to handle signage?
Vice Chair Coulter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Notty, first of all, to your first comment, we do actually subsidize private colleges and universities through the state grant program as well as other various programs that we offer. To answer your question, I think it would be enforced the same way that it's currently enforced on private property, signage in appropriate areas. As far as what exactly a policy would look like, what buildings or what have you it would cover, that would be up to the individual, bless you. That would be up, to the individual institution. I will point out that, bless you again, goodness, that the bill does limit this to property that is owned by the institution. So it would not cover any other public property or any private property nearby or even within what would be considered a campus.
Representative Novotny.
Chair Wolgamott, bless you, by the way.
Thank you. Hay
So-
fever season.
Representative Coulter, what about parking lots? So if a person has a permit to carry and they go to an event and they can't take it into the venue, would they be able to use it in the park? Would they be able to store it in their vehicle in the parking lot?
Vice Chair Coulter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Notty, if you look at line 1.21 through 1.23 on the bill itself, this does not change that section of statute, so they would not be able to prohibit lawful carry in a parking facility or a parking area.
Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Chair Wolgamott. Representative Coulter, are you familiar with the bill that's in front of I don't know where it's at right now, but it is in the House that would change that rule. It's currently about prohibiting from parking lots, just as a thought. You mentioned several incidents that took place and that I think Mr. Gosh covered before I could get to that, but as he mentioned, those were all gun-free zones. I don't know if you watched the news last week, but I believe it was Thursday of last week, might have been the week before, but in one day, there were 2 attacks that appear to be terrorist-related, but one person drove a vehicle into a school, a Jewish school, and security guards were able to confront them. And then the other one on the East Coast, and the name is, the college is at a loss for me, where it was the ROTC students were able to fight back. The only thing they had was a knife, and they were able to defend themselves with a knife and stop that person in that attack. I look at the House here, and we had concerns over safety and security, and what did we do as a group? The House, the Capitol Security Commission decided that we would have more people that were able to defend themselves and take care of themselves as opposed to disarming. I'm a farm kid, I'll make it really simple. When the wolf attacks, we don't take the teeth and the claws off of the sheepdog that's there to protect them. And with that, I'm going to be a no on this.
Thank you, Representative Novotny. Further discussion on House File 4362. I recognize Representative Cleaborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Coulter, thank you for bringing the bill forward. I'd like to remind everyone in this room and kind of level set that I believe most of our private colleges are not-for-profits, and they receive a very large subsidy from the state in that we do not collect taxes from them for many things. So that's a huge public subsidy. So I would think possibly, that would be something we should consider going forward whenever we look at anything public or private. I think this is a very good bill because when things happen, when outsiders come onto a college campus and they create havoc and harm, there is a large public expense. There's a massive response that occurs. Ambulances are dispatched. This is all a large public cost. And so whatever we could do to prevent that public cost is not only life-saving, but it's also fiscally responsible. So I think it's a very good bill. And to give the institutions an ability to say, this person doesn't belong here, this person is armed, we need to remove this implement of harm so that we can keep our students safe. That is their fiduciary responsibility to keep the students safe. I think it's a very good bill. It's always interesting to me to hear someone say, these gun-free zones exist and harm still occurs, so let's not have gun-free zones. We require everyone to have car insurance if they're gonna drive a car, right? It's insurance I buy every year hoping to never use. But accidents do happen, harm does happen, right? So we require that. Now, the argument that it is your constitutional right to carry, I hear that, but rights also come with responsibilities. So we're not talking about someone who is behaving in a lawful way, being asked to leave an institution. We're asking that if someone is behaving in an unlawful way or in a dangerous manner, for the institution to have rules in place that would allow that individual to be removed, because rights come with responsibility. And we've heard that over and over in the court cases and in litigation. So I think the bill is right. It's going in the right direction. And I just want to thank you for having the courage to bring it in light of the fact that there are many people who don't want this. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cleavorn. Are there any other members who are wishing to provide discussion on House File 4362? Vice Chair Coulter, before I leave it to you for closing remarks, I personally would just like to thank you for bringing this bill forward. I will be requesting a roll call vote, and I will be asking members to vote yes for this. This is already policy for faculty and students, and the more that we can do to ensure that students feel safe, that students are protected. Students have enough on their plates to worry about. They don't need to worry about gun violence threatening their ability to get a higher education. So again, Vice Chair Coulter, thank you for bringing this bill forward. I'll be voting yes. I ask members to also vote yes, and well, leave it to you for closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And before I get into my prepared comments, I do want to address this concept of gun-free zones. I saw something written somewhere, I think in one of the letters in our packets, referring to the myth of gun-free zones. And I think my answer to that is that the reverse of that argument is not true. More guns do not make us safe. If that were true, America would be the safest country in the world. And I think we all know that that's not true. I was going to request a roll call, but you beat me to the punch, Mr. Chair. I was 12 years old when Columbine happened. And I think it's hard, for those of us who didn't grow up in the shadow of so many school shootings to understand what that feels like. And it's hard for those of us maybe who don't have young kids going into school to understand the feeling in the pit of your stomach when you say goodbye to them every morning. And it's hard to understand, I think, for many, how infuriating it is for students, teachers, and parents when elected officials say nothing can be done and wash their hands of it. An all too appropriate phrase, I think, as we approach Holy Week, considering that it came from an official who chose cowardice and political expediency over justice. Our students, our learners, and all of the people who make that learning happen deserve to have a say in how they are protected from gun violence. And they deserve to know if their leaders' higher loyalty is to their lives or to the guns. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Coulter. The clerk will take the roll on House File 4362.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll begin with Chair Wolgamott.
Wolgamott votes aye.
Wolgamott, aye. Chair Robbins?
No.
Robbins, no. Vice Chair Coulter?
Aye.
Coulter, aye. Vice Chair Schwartz?
No.
Schwartz, no. Representative Allen?
No.
Allen, no. Representative Duran?
No.
Duran, no. Representative Hanson?
Yes.
Hanson, yes. Representative Hicks? Aye. Hicks, aye. Representative Cleavorn?
Cleavorn, aye.
Cleavorn, aye. Representative Liebling?
Liebling, aye.
Liebling, aye. Representative Noor?
No, yes.
Noor, yes. Representative Novotny?
No.
Novotny, no. Representative Rarick? Representative Rarick here today on Zoom?
Rarick, no.
Rarick, no. Representative Scott?
No.
Scott, no. Mr. Chair, the count is 7-7.
There being 7 ayes and 7 nays, the motion does not prevail, and House File 4362 will not be referred to the Public Safety Committee.